Knockhill isn't one of my favourite tracks, but you know, the points that were available there are the same as any other place, so we have to give it our full focus and attention. And you know, maybe I can rebuild my enthusiasm for Knockhill with some great results. We had a test here a week ago, so in that day we started out with a wet track. We were riding in wet conditions, and then by lunchtime it was dry, and we finished the afternoon in full dry conditions. So we have some settings that we know are somewhere near in both conditions, so we're sort of confident. We arrived here with wet conditions. I was leading the opening practice and then had a small crash, nothing too serious, just slipped off at turn 2. The way I always try and work my weekend and my bike setup, and even just the way I ride my bike, is always about the race. So I'm focusing on trying to make the motorcycle better for racing, and when I get to a position that I'm comfortable at to do that pace, I can often do it repeated. That's sort of like my strategy, and my target is to try and obviously improve the package all the time, but you know, every time I'm making it a step forward, it's not for one lap, it's normally so that I can repeat that lap time. In the second session I was fastest again, but not as fast as the first session, so I ended up third overall. But all in all, we're happy and comfortable with the pace and the attitude of the bike. The conditions in the second practice were a lot worse than the first, so you know, we just had to make do, and it was the same for everybody. But you know, it was hard to evaluate small changes when the track conditions were worse, because you're like, I think the bike's better, but I'm still slower because the conditions aren't favourable. But yeah, all in all, we're in a real good position. I'm comfortable going ahead. You know, it's not like I can do something different, you know. It's not like if you're watching on TV, the bike's not going like this. No, but just, I can feel like we're somewhere getting close now, you know. Seems like very straightforward braking into turn 1, but all these bumps on the left, these undulations, set the bike off, and you go into this blind corner, and as you go off here, it's like a cliff. It makes your stomach go, and then you drop down here into this turn, back to second gear. It's quite slow for us in superbikes, but is what it is. Track's off camber, very slippery, quite a few crashes through here. You know, sneak through that little bit there, up over this blind crest, use both curbs in the dry, and just that left one in the wet. Then short acceleration up here, very slippery on the exit, lots of crashes here. And then braking in, this corner's really hard because it's off camber, it really draws the bike to the left, makes you want to run wide. But don't use the curb on the left, because even though it's smooth, it'll ruin your lap time, so you try and stay off the curb, and then just hug this white line, staying tight all the way to the white line until about here, and then you can let the bike roll out. And then it's very simple, straightforward braking, but it's really bumpy and rough here, so you're fighting the handlebars all the way to the last turn. And then the slowest, probably the slowest corner on British Superbikes Championship. And that's it. Just ready to go for another go. I haven't really focused too much on who's where. I'm really right now just focusing on what we're doing as a group, as a team, and then also when I'm on track, just focus on what I'm doing individually, and trying to make the most of every moment on track. I think it's particularly important to go directly into Q2 when it's a full dry weekend, because we don't have enough tyres to do all the sessions. So the fact that we've had a full day of wet means we've got an abundance of tyres for the rest of the weekend. So if it did go dry, then you would have extra track time because you got Q1 as well as Q2. You got extra tyres because you haven't used them up today. So it actually would suit, if the rest of the weekend was dry, to actually ride in Q1, provided you got the confidence that you're going to be fast enough to go into Q2, of course. We went into FP3 yesterday morning, and the bike was working really good in the dry, so I was pleased that I was third. And then went into qualifying, didn't do my best lap. I was a bit angry and frustrated at the end of qualifying because I didn't put a perfect lap together, but ended up fourth, so not a disaster in any way. Losing the front. No, it's better.
Fourth place, second row of the grid. How are you feeling about that?
If you had the audio in the pits when I come back, you would have heard some impressive frustration. But no, I mean, previous rounds I've been 8th, 9th, 10th sort of places for qualifying, so I should be really happy with 4th. But I was just annoyed that we didn't. Well, it comes down to me basically on the track, but that I didn't do the best that we could do. You know, I kind of messed up turn 1 and then get the other sections right, or get all the other sections right and mess up the final turn. I just didn't put it all together, and it might have only been a 10th or 2, you know what I mean? But I was just frustrated with myself for not doing like what my job is.
Conditions must be really tricky though, Josh. Obviously you'll have a massive tailwind down into turn 1, into turn 3, big headwind going into the last corner. How tricky is it out there?
Yeah, the headwind is quite nice to ride with. It helps the bike slow up, and when you're a bit late in the turn, you've got some assistance getting stopped. Where it is tricky is, like you mentioned, turn 1. You know, you've got a tailwind. If you just make the slightest mistake, turn 1's already a tricky corner anyway, because you know you carry a lot of lean angle over the dropping camber of the road. So the front always feels like it's about to step away from you. So to increase that feeling with a tailwind is really discomforting. But yeah, it's the same for everybody. But I'm just sort of highlighting the fact that it is tricky, like super tricky. But you know, the rest of the track isn't too bad in the wind. It's more just sort of like that turn 1, probably turn 3 as well is awkward. But all in all, you know, I think I speak for everyone. We're just pleased that it's a dry track. We had plenty of laps yesterday in the wet, and that was more tricky. You know, riding a wet track with all the wind that we've got certainly had us pressed for staying on board. But no, it's pleasing that it's dry, and you know we can make a good race from the second row. I think, you know, just looking at general lap times, we should be somewhere in the mix for a top 3. And obviously getting off the second row isn't a disaster. So I think we should be in for a good race if it stays dry.
We wish you the best of luck this afternoon then.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. Today's actually not as challenging as some of the days we've experienced in the past. Like now the track's dry, everyone will have slicks in. The weather looking in the direction of the wind it looks to be clear, so I think it's a pretty straightforward decision at this point.
All right, thanks, John.
Got a good launch off the line, but didn't get a really good position into the first corners and lost a couple of positions. And then just sort of like battled through the race and ended up making a few places back, but end up 6th overall. So not a great result, but definitely not terrible. You know, we're happy with that. I feel like maybe we lost a little bit of front end feel in the bike. So the first couple of laps I was sort of I guess a bit intimidated by what the bike felt like. and I couldn't push hard enough. I lost a few places on the first lap, so I kind of was a bit frustrated at that point. And then I kind of found a bit more of a rhythm and started moving forwards. But you know, I was kind of locked horns with Tommy and Storm. So yeah, I have to accept the position. It is what it is. But I feel like we definitely can make a little improvement for tomorrow. It'll be difficult to challenge for the podium, but who knows? With a slightly improved package and a good start, maybe we could be there.
Well, you're there or thereabouts, Josh. It's great to see you being competitive this year.
Thank you. We already had ideas of where we wanted to improve the bike, and looking back at the footage, it looked like the front of the bike was, maybe a bit on the soft side. It was sort of like bouncing off a few of the bumps, and so it didn't look very stable. So with all that in mind, we sort of made some changes and went out in this morning's warm-up, hoping it would be dry to test the bike. But as it turns out, it was wet again this morning. So went out in this morning's session, obviously with wet settings in, and was fastest in the wet. In fact, by half a second faster than the next best rider. Must be able to, because I've seen a bit more, but it's not really outrageous.
Well, it's not too dry.
Well, it's very dry. I don't think we've got much chance of that.
And once again, the rain event.
The morning warm-up was obviously a good indication of the bike operating on the wet tyres, but the track was nearly dry all the way around. It was sort of riding on a balance beam width of dry tarmac. And I was actually getting off that, going to the wet bits on the straights to try and keep the soft tyres cool. But obviously in this race now, we'll not have any of those conditions. It should be just wet all the way through. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not any more wise to you than you as to what to expect in this race. Yeah, general briefing of how the weekend's been going for us. We had a test here last week, which was absolutely ideal. We started the test with wet conditions, and then got a nice setting with the bike, got good feeling, set the bike for the wet, and did some good times. Then later in the day, it dried out completely, and we got a good number of laps in dry conditions, got our gearing set, and then started working on setup for the bike. And we'd also been testing at Donington, which is a lot different from Knockhill, as everybody knows. But we kind of wrapped up and finished up some of the settings we were playing with the bike at Donington. Kind of it come in a nice way and sort of merged together with what we learned here. So we came here quite optimistic and happy with the settings and the bike. So in wet conditions, we've been doing great, and in dry, we've been pretty good. So quite a big surprise in that race then, start on the second row and drift back. The only thing we can think of is maybe a bad tyre or something like that, because I was well over, like 1.5 seconds slower than what I was in the morning warm-up. On the same bike, the same everything, just top up the fuel and put new tyres in. So the build date on the tyres we've been using this weekend is 2023. So they're a few years old, but they're the same for everybody. You know, you go up to Pirelli and you've got to take what they give you, and they get rid of the 23s before they give you the 24s. The main problem with that is not so much that it's an old tyre, but what has it been doing since 23? Where has it been stored since 2023? Has it been in a shipping container in the hot sun we've had the last few weeks, and it's been the one right at the very top getting baked? Or has it been one right at the very bottom in the nice cool position in the container? So obviously tyres are made of rubber. Rubber is temperamental to temperature and things like that. So I think it's just it's like pulling a peg out of a bucket. You know, it's you just sometimes you get a good one and a bad one with the tyres. So that's all we can put it down to. There's no other explanation. I nearly crashed a bunch of times just trying to stay in the race. So you know, I'm upset. I know the people, supporters, everybody involved with the team is disappointed with the result. But we just have to, you know, use logic, and the only logical answer is that the tyre was a bit off. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing, but the disappointment sort of carries on a bit further because the grid position for each race is determined by where your lap time is in the previous race. So because I was 11th in that race, now I have to start from 11th in the next race. So a bit of another kick in whilst you're down, but hopefully, like if I was half a second faster than everybody this morning in the conditions we had, if everything goes right, maybe I can move my way up, fingers crossed. Really mixed emotions right now. We started the weekend really strong. We had a test here last week. I was fastest in the opening practice, which was wet. Fastest again, well, and until I fell off. At that point, I was leading. Fastest in the next practice. Third in the next practice in the dry, and then qualified fourth in the dry, and then race didn't go exactly to plan, but got a sixth in dry. And then this morning was wet, and I was fastest by a big margin. So went out in race two, race one of the Sunday, and just really struggled with rear grip. The bike felt nothing like what I anticipated it to feel like. And then again, same thing, same repeat pattern in the final race of today. So yeah, can't understand how we've managed to lose performance between morning warm up and you know, the two races today. But I feel like we just need to flick the switch on this weekend and turn it off, and then come back to another round and put this behind us. I've never won a race at Knockhill, but I've won 19 British Superbike races at Brands Hatch. So let's say I'm looking forward to going to Brands.